Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with other entrepreneurs that have overcome and want to provide value to the audience. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. So this morning we have the amazing Michelle Carter. So good morning.
Good morning, Dr. V. I'm so happy to be here.
Sweet, sweet. So now tell us, like, if someone had to describe you, like your bio, right?
Okay.
Tell us in your own words your bio.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a strong, determined. I say committed. I'm very committed to my family. I'm committed to my children. I'm committed to my positions I've been in. I've worked hard. I've strived hard to get where I'm at. I guess you can say, as the song says, you started from the bottom and got to the top. That's my life. I started from the bottom and got to the top. I worked very hard.
I love it. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. So we're going to start out. So you are the director of nursing at your facility, correct?
Yes. Yes.
But you have a program that helps the directors of nurses, correct?
Yes.
Sweet, sweet. And we're going to get into that.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to start out, because you said that you started from the bottom and now you're here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start out with how you started out. So you said you were a teen mom. So tell us about that. So tell us how that came about. I mean, we know how
it came about. So I was a young teen mom. I have two children. I have two daughters. I had my first daughter when I was 16. I was going into the 11th grade. I didn't really have a lot of family support. There was members of my family who didn't think I was going to amount to anything. But I was determined to get back in there. I finished high school. I moved on and got into different programs to exceed myself and start off as a CNA. I started off in long-term care almost 35 years ago as a CNA. And I continued to work up. I saw other nurses that were doing things. I said, well, why can't I try that? So I went back to LPN school, still trying to raise two daughters. Well, at that time I had one. And my other daughter in the middle of a little bit right before I started LPN school. So I had two daughters trying to get LPN school. Went to school Monday through Friday, worked every weekend. So I totally understand that 7-day-a-week commitment. As I finished at that LPN, I worked for LPN for about 3 years. Then I went back for my RN. And I went still raising two children. My oldest daughter was a big help at that time. So I would go to work in the daytime, go to school in the evening, and on the weekends. And my oldest daughter would help babysit my youngest daughter when I went for my RN. And that was a big accomplishment for me to walk across that stage when I got my RN. I was so proud of myself, and they were proud of me. My daughters aren't in nursing, but I do think they're proud of me and they see how hard I've worked. And I think they get that determination in their lives from me. Went back and got my bachelor's degree, and just got my master's degree in 21. 21, I got my master's degree, and I also got some certifications. But I've been working as a director of nursing before I even had this degree. I worked as director of nursing when I had my associate's degree. So I've been working as a director of nursing off and on for 15 years.
Sweet.
Years.
So let's go back to when you first found out that you were pregnant. So tell me a little bit about what did you think? Like, what was your thought process when you first found out that you were pregnant? Like, how did that play out?
What am I going to do, and how am I going to tell my mom?
And how did you tell her? How did you tell her?
I came to the room and kind of just, I'm pregnant. And she kind of flipped out on me because my mom that's not what she wanted for me. And it was my stepmother at the time, and I was living with my stepmother. And she put me through a lot, but I'm glad she did. She said, this is your child. You're going to take care of it. My mom did not babysit for me to go to school. She did not babysit for me to work. I had to find babysitters to go to school. I had to find babysitters for me to work because I worked in a like a little corner store after school. So my best friend used to watch my daughter, her and her mom. They would when we lived across the street, so they would take my daughter home, give her a bath, put her to sleep. And I thought my mom was being mean, but I'm glad she taught me that. It taught me responsibility. It taught me how to be independent, and it taught me not to have another child for 8 years. So I was ready.
That's right. I know that's right.
Yeah,
And so when you went to school, so how long you started out as a CNA? How long were you a CNA before you became an LPN?
about what's about 7 years? About 7 years.
And then LPN to RN, how long?
About three and a half.
Three and a half.
Three and a
And
half.
then RN to, so you got your bachelor's initially and not your associate?
No, I got my associates first,
And then your bachelor's and then your
and then my
master's.
bachelor's, and then my master's. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, how long have you worked in long-term care? Like, is that where you started? Like, how
That's
does
where
that?
I started. That's where I've been. That's the field I've been in since I've been a CNA. I started in long term care in the '90s, and I've been in long term care ever since. Now, I've had multiple jobs in long term care. Like I said, I was a CNA, I was an LPM. When I got my RN, I worked as a supervisor, an ADON, and then I got an opportunity. There was an administrator who she liked me. I think she just liked how I present myself, and she gave me an opportunity to be a director of nursing. And it was hard that first job. That first director of nursing job was very challenging.
So, what are some of the challenges that you face as a director of nursing
Um, at that time or overall?
at that time?
At that time, I don't think I was really ready. Um, and then one of the things that was a challenge for me was I was promoted within. So I was friends with a lot of people. I was an LPN and I hung out with the CNAs and other LPNs. Our kids we're still friends to this day. All our kids grew up together. So when I transitioned to be their direct boss, it was very very challenging. It was challenging to separate myself from being their friend and also being their supervisor now, their direct supervisor.
So, how did you separate that though? So, how did you manage to? So, what are the things, what are practical steps that you put into place in order to be able to manage that transition?
One, I had to separate myself personally. That's the first thing. I had to separate myself personally and explain to them I'm still your friend, but when we're at work, you have to respect the judgments that I make. You can give opinions, but you have to respect the judgments that I make because ultimately my job is to do what's best for the residents and for the whole organization in the building. I also I had to kind of, when I went to the floors, treat everybody the same. I didn't sit and talk to them on the floors like I would talk to them like if I was an LPM. I would talk, and I made a purpose to maybe talk to more people that weren't my friends more, so they wouldn't look like I was showing favoritism to
Gotcha.
those people that I worked with, but we weren't friends outside of work. I made it purposely to talk to them a little bit more.
Gotcha. 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 Okay. So, now overall, tell me some of the challenges that you face as director of nursing.
I think overall, when you're a new director of nursing, just being comfortable in who you can trust. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't realize being a director of nursing is a very very difficult job, and you're kind of caught in the middle because you have your administrator, which you have to have a great relationship with your administrator, but then you have your team, and you're kind of caught in the middle, and you're like between the clinical side and administrative and the business side. One of the biggest challenges is staffing. Staffing is a huge challenge right now. Also, getting the right residents into the building so you can take care of them correctly. And sometimes director nurses, believe it or not, they have the final say so who comes into the building. Most of the time it's admissions, but it's our responsibility to make sure they get the care that they need.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, tell me, because we talked a little bit about your journey as being an African American nurse. So, tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you have faced, because I think that what happens a lot of times, and I just took it for it's just the way that it is,
Yeah.
but I don't think that we should take it that way, right?
No, you
And
shouldn't.
many times, I have faced challenges that I now look back on and I say, that was probably because of my skin color, right?
Hmm.
And so tell me a little bit about what of some of the challenges that you face as an African American
Well,
nurse.
when I my first director of nursing job, I worked for a company, and they had eight facilities in our area, in the Pittsburgh area. I was the first and the only African American DON in that company. And when I would go to meetings, people would just look at me different, and they would, and I'm very outspoken. I am who I am. I say what I need to say. They would look at me different. And I know consultants used to treat me a little bit different. And I think sometimes there were times where I don't want to say they set me up, but they set me up. And I think if I wasn't an African American, they might have treated me a little bit, that wouldn't happen. I was a newer RN when I got my first position as a director of nursing. There was things I knew from the aspect of being on the floor to take care of, but now you're bringing in admissions, making sure everything's in place for the nurses. And I had a consultant that was a TPN. I'm going to just give the example. It was a TPN. I've worked with TPNs on the floor. They have long-term care. But being a director of nursing, you got to make sure that TPN's on time, how much it costs.
Now, I want you to back up, and I want you to tell the audience what TPN is, because everybody don't know.
I'm sorry. TPN is total parental nutrition,
right?
And it's a way that for people that don't have gastric tubes, for them to get the nutrition, it goes through an IV infusion. So I'm sorry, you guys nurses talk nurse all day.
Right.
But in that situation with the TPN, she was educating me behind the scenes, and I appreciate it. But when we went to our meeting, she started quizzing me like I didn't know what was going on, and kind of put me down. And it made me look like, wow, I mean, you're supposed to be here to help me, not to criticize me in front of people. I mean, there's things a lot of us don't know. That's why you ask the questions. Being a director nurse or any nurse, you don't know everything. You have to ask the questions, and we have to encourage each other and teach each other and uplift each other. And I really think if I was not African American, I don't think I would have got treated the same that way at all. Because I've seen her interaction with other DONs.
Gotcha. So now tell me a little bit about how, because you have a program where you speak to directors of nursing, of long-term care facilities specifically, right?
Yeah.
And so in your program, you consult them. So how is your program different than those the consultant? Because I think on the consultant side, this is the way that I look at it. When the facility hires the consultant, then they have the facility's best interest at heart, right?
Correct.
But when you come in and you speak to the directors of nursing, you have their best interests at heart, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's the difference. So tell us a little bit about your program.
So I came to realize, well, I've known this all along. Directors of nurses don't get trained. A lot of people don't realize 90% of director nurses, when they take the position, they get the keys to their office and they have to figure it out on their own. That's a big issue, I think, in long-term care. And then trying to find that if you do have a consultant, is that consultant going to teach you what you really need to be so you can be successful? We have to remember, and I'm not downgrading consultants, regional consultants whatsoever, because they have a purpose, but they're not always in the best interest of the director of nursing to make sure this director of nursing is successful and stays in this position. Directors of nursing, the turnover is 9 months. Most director of nurses stay in 9 months to a year. It takes at least a year to build your building up because you don't get the support. You don't get the support from your administrator. You don't get the support from the regional. They may come and visit you maybe once a month, twice a month. But when they come, they're not always, let's sit down. What can I help you with? They kind of show you some of the regulations and expect you to figure it out. I've just talked to a couple of director nurses that have been terminated because their mock surveys weren't correct. Well, a mock survey is to help you so your big survey is good. You don't terminate your leader because the mock survey is not right. You teach them. It's supposed to be a learning process. And you're going to have bad situations, but you need that consistency. My goal is to help those director nurses to be that guidance, that support, help them walk through those challenges, give them that support, show them how to balance work and their lives, because that's a challenge also. So they'll stay in a position.
That is crazy. I have now that is very surprising, that statistic of the average turnover, because the average turnover of an ER nurse is about 3 years, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty high intensity. But for them to turn over every 9 months.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
It's a
interesting
big
that
turnover.
you say that, because I used to work as the readmissions manager, and I used to always wonder, why is it that every few months, just like you said, they would have new directors of nursing in these facilities,
Yeah,
and that's the reason why. And so that's the reason why you have such a high turnover with the staff, because staff don't
exactly.
follow. They don't follow. They don't follow the actual company. They follow the leader,
Yes,
right? And if the
yes,
leader leaves, then they're going to leave as well.
exactly. And you have to,
Wow.
your building's never going to be successful if you don't have consistency. The successful buildings are the ones who have consistent leaders. And I just have, I've been in long-term care for a long time, and I see long-term care has gotten a different reputation, especially after COVID. I think a lot of people blame us for COVID. We didn't cause COVID at all, but it got a bad rep. But there are so many strong nurses in long-term care that don't get the recognition that they deserve. And that's one of my things, to help build the next generation to take these positions, because we all can't be. I can't be a director of nursing forever. And
Right.
eventually somebody has to. Everything evolves, just like you don't have the same president forever. Everything evolves. You have to get new, fresh eyes in there, but they have to be prepared, and they need the support to stay in the position. And sometimes you just need somebody to vent to, that is not going to turn around and tell somebody that you're working with, because you're going to have those stressful days. It's going to happen, but you need that support, and you need somebody that understands it. And I've walked the walk for 15 years.
So tell me, high level, very high level, some of the things that you discuss in your program, that you highlight in your program. Tell us a
What
few.
One of it is building your confidence. I want to get them to get to the mindset that they can believe that they can do this job. As I've learned from my coach and other people, mindset is so important. So they have to have the mindset and the confidence. Anybody that goes into a room with confidence, they're perceived totally different than when you go in and meek and mild. Building your leadership skills. You have to have leadership skills to be able to understand your staff, understand how to speak to your staff, understand how to engage your staff, because they'll work for you if you work for them. And also giving them education about the regulations and giving that support. You're not going to always have great surveys, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad DON because you had a bad survey. It means that it's a learning experience. Let's work harder and move over, because you can't fix what you don't know is broken. And sometimes you don't even figure out it's broken till 3 months in. You can't fix everything all at one time. But giving them, to letting them know everything, it's steps. You have to follow the steps, and building the right team, having a good team around you that respects you and that you can trust. Trust is so important in a director nursing position.
I love it. So if you had to layer it in pillars, like whenever you get into the director of nursing position, so you have the business aspect of it, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
financials, but
yeah,
then you have the leadership of your staff. What are
yeah.
some other pillars that you absolutely have to have as director of nursing in the long term?
You really need to be able to know the regulations, and know what's in your building. I think, just, I call it in the know. And that's something I was taught, in the know, going out there and figuring out what's in your building. I've been a director of nursing. I tell everybody I do not like surprises. I don't care how bad it is. You tell me. I never want to be in a position. I don't think any director of nursing should ever be in a position when a regulatory compliance or regulatory company comes in your building, you have no idea why they're there. You should know everything that's going on in your building. And in order to do that, you have to get out on the floors. You have to inspect what you expect. Get in there, read the notes. Don't just You can give the job to your manager or ADON, but you need to kind of you need to follow up, making sure things are taken care of.
There's the director of nursing, and her name is Bridget. I'm just going to give her, her props, that is here, and she is phenomenal. And
Mhm.
that's the one thing that what you just said is the one thing that happens with her. Like
Mhm.
is phenomenal at knowing exactly what was in her building. There were times when I would call and I would talk to other directors for nursing and they wouldn't know, right? They
Hmm.
wouldn't know each individual client. They couldn't tell me exactly what was going on with their client. But she's at what's called the Keratin of Nursing now. And so I just want to give her, holler out and give her her props for, like, when we would talk, we would know
Mm.
exactly were her clients. So I love that you said that because
Yeah,
so many don't. They
they
have
don't do no
and
idea.
and they don't last long because of that. Like
Exactly.
they're not invested in the clients or the residents enough, in my opinion, in order to be able to move forward in that way. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's really, really good. So you just went through VP Nursing Business Academy.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And so we were able to, like, you didn't have a business at the time, you hadn't started anything. And so tell us a little bit about your time in the business of VP Nursing Business Academy.
Was the best decision I ever made for my business. I can honestly say that. Um, I learned how to obtain my LLC. I learned how to obtain my EIN, how to market myself, how to be comfortable talking in front of people, doing lives, put my name out there, how to attract clients. That was my biggest thing. Learning, being comfortable to talk to new people on social media. Then realize how important social media is to connect with your clients. Building my Facebook page. I have a Facebook business page. I have an Instagram business page. I'm looking towards in 2023. I'm going to have a YouTube page. Just building myself up to be that coach that I know that I am for those directors of nursing, and
I
getting those clientele.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Because when you came in, like, and you were timid at first,
Yeah.
but the more you do it, the more comfortable you have become with it. I am super, super proud of you. Um,
Thank you.
so now tell us about your program. So tell us where everyone can find you.
You can find me. I have a new website. It's mcbnurseconsultant.com. I'm also on Facebook under MCB Consultant Nurse Consultant LLC is my Facebook page, and I'll have an Instagram page. It's MCB. Now the Instagram page is all one word. MCB Nurse Consultant LLC. You can find me on both of those social media platforms and also on my website. I do lives. I have a Facebook group called the DON Suite. You can also do that. Now that Facebook group is geared to directors of nursing, a safe place for them to talk. We have conversations in there. I do live sessions in there. You're welcome. I want directors of nursing and other clinical leaders, long-term care, to join in. So my program's geared for directors of nursing, but I want those ADONs and unit managers because grooming them, they'll take the position as a director of nursing.
And that is so super important because a lot of times I think, not that a lot of times I think, I know for a fact, many times whenever you're in healthcare, because you are a good clinician, you are promoted to a leadership position. When
Yeah,
leadership and good clinician and good leadership are two different skill sets,
yeah,
two completely different skill sets. You can be one and be the other, but you have to develop that skill set in order for you to be able to be effective in that skill set for sure.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
so you want you want unit managers and those ADONs
Yeah,
in the Facebook group. So
yeah.
we have Michelle's information in the copy at the top. So please go and visit her Facebook page. She gives out amazing information all the time. And so it will behoove you to be a part of that, especially if you are in long term care. So now tell me something that you want the audience to absolutely know about you and what you provide for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
I want the audience to know that my journey is to change the way long-term care is perceived. I want to change the way the nurses and the director of nurses are perceived. I want to build up our next generation. I want to build that foundation of clinical leaders in long-term care. That's my goal. That's my journey.
You know, It's Shonda Blue, who is she has a long-term care facility. She talked about the fact that we're about to see a silver tsunami,
Yeah,
because of the fact that how the baby boomers are shifting out of working, and then they are shifting into long-term care. So that is definitely a space in which, if you really want to make, number one, impact and change, but you also want to make money, that is
yeah,
definitely a space in which you can go into and make sustainable change, and then be there for the people who are putting their families in long-term care,
exactly.
because sometimes that can be scary. That can be a
It
scary
is.
situation. And so, I think that that is, definitely one of the things. Tell us a story. Tell us a story about how you have helped a family transition that has been hard for them.
I had it was a younger guy. He happened to have to be in long term care because of a situation with him, and it was really hard for his mom. His mom's only child, and we had to we me and my staff had to help her understand and trust us. The family needs to feel trust because we are taking care of the loved ones. They can't be there all the time, and they do have the guilt of having to put your loved ones. No one wants to put their loved one into a nursing home, but sometimes that's the best fit is you can't take care of them at home. So you have to have that respect and trust with your families, and you also have to let them vent. They're going to come. And they may be, maybe we didn't do something the correct way. Acknowledge it, apologize, and move forward. There's no sense of you should not be arguing with families about it. Maybe we should have did things different. This is what we're going to do to rectify it. If you have any problems, you can reach out to me and make yourself available. Every family member has my card. They can call me. They can email me. Sometimes they call me after hours and just be there for them because you would want the same treatment if it was your family member. And I think that's what people have to realize. We all this long term care and health care affects everybody. That just affects a certain group of people. It affects all of us.
That's right. That's right. So thank you, Michelle. You have been
Thank you so much.
absolutely, absolutely wonderful. So in February, Michelle will be in attendance.
Yes,
We're going to have the Six Figure Nurse CEO conference that's coming up February 24th and 25th. It's going to be an amazing event. We will have several speakers that are coming on, all of which have gone through the program, all of which who have very successful businesses. And so if you want to hear from people who have successful businesses, I encourage you to be in the room, because it's different when you're in the room. We have master classes and that's cool,
right.
right? But when you're in the room, it's a different vibe. You get to connect with people. And the reality is that nurses have the ability to change the face of healthcare as we know it, period.
Yeah, yes, we do.
And we have the ability to be there for the families, to provide safe patient care, to be able to do things differently, because the way that we're currently working it is not working. And
Yeah,
so we want to be the voice of change for sure. And when we collaborate with each other, we make huge shifts, just like the shifts that are being made with the silver tsunami. So
yeah.
I ask that you like and share this podcast. All of Michelle's information will be in the copy. Also, if you want to sign up for the Nurse Six Figure CEO conference, it's going to be in the copy as well. So we would love to see you, and you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.